Okay, we're exactly on Nun Hey, right on the top. Oh, Yossi. Tanan Hassam. Do we have another Gemara? Thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. In this course of learning, we should have the basic English. Everyone learns Israel should be safe. Okay, the Mishnah and the Gemara here is talking about a man, it's Masechta Kiddushin. So a man marries a woman, and how does he marry her? He has to give her some coin or ring or something. We're discussing if the ring that he gave to her was actually hektish. In other words, it was consecrated property. So what happens then? So we had a machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir, where they made a distinction. If it was done, if he realized what it was, and he was giving it to her anyway, so then Rabbi Meir would hold that she is married, and Rabbi Yehuda would hold she's not. And if it was done b'shaygig, that means unintentional, then it's exactly the opposite. Rabbi Meir holds she's not married, and Rabbi Yehuda holds she is married. Okay, so Tanan Hassam was taught over there in the Mishnah, Behema, an animal. So Nimtzas to the sun. Nimtzas Mirushalayim l'migdaleder k'midas l'chal ruach. It was found outside Jerusalem, and it was, what you need to do is you need to take a compass, you know, the thing you buy for your kids every year that they never use. You have to take for the school supplies. You put the needle in one point, and you stretch it out to Migdaleder, and then you make a circle all the way around on the map, and that would be the area here which we're dealing with. If an animal is found in any of that area, so then you have to be concerned that maybe it was a sacrifice because it's Jerusalem. So Zecharim, if it would be a male animal, then oilas. Then it's oilas. Oilas are elevation offerings, the burnt offering, entirely burnt. That would be a normal male animal, would be an oila. And the kavas, if it was female animals, then it's zivchi shlamim, then we say that it's a shlamim, which is a peace offering. Okay, peace offering is eaten by everyone, the kayanim and the owners. The Gemara says, what do you think? You can only bring a male animal as a oila, you can't bring a male animal as a shlamim. Shlamim could be brought either, male or female. Amar Rabbi Yishia, so Rabbi Yishia answers, we're not talking about where you're going to use the animal itself and bring it as a sacrifice. That would be actually a problem because we actually don't know what this animal is. And you can't just bring a sacrifice. It may be this, it may be that. You're going to mess it up if you bring it wrong. Well, this is what he's saying. We suspect that maybe it's an oila, and therefore, what are you going to do? I didn't translate, but what we're going to do is we're going to exchange the value of this animal for another animal, and we're going to have to bring also shlamim, an oila and a shlamim. This is going to get complicated. So you take this animal, and you say, I don't know what this is, but let's say it was a shlamim, so I'm bringing a shlamim. So we say yirasa. And then we say, right, then we say, let's say it was an oila, I'm going to bring an oila. What do I do about that other animal that I brought? Oh, that would just be a donation. What do I do about maybe the other animal was correct? I'll say, okay, this one will be a donation. But the rule is that shlamim and oilas are both allowed to be donations. So it could be that this animal that you now have, you take the new animal. You only found one animal. And I bring two animals in place of this one because I don't know what it is. Now, what happens to this animal? This animal becomes chulin. Now, we're going to be very surprised. The Gemara is very surprised about that because you never redeem a behema. There's a concept of tamura where they both become. But you can never get an animal without a blemish to be chulin. How does this work? We'll see in a moment. We say for Reb Meir, and this is the opinion of Reb Meir, The Amar Hektish b'mezid mischalal. He holds. Remember, we said that the mayor holds that if you want to marry a woman and you give her a coin, or you give her a ring, and that ring was hektish. The mayor holds that if you did that b'mezid, knowingly that it was hektish, so she becomes married. Why? Because it actually leaves hektish because of your violation, and leaves hektish, it becomes regular money. That's the case here also. Reb Meir would hold that you take this animal, you take it out of its hektish status, you make it into chulin, and then you take other animals. You basically you can redeem, you can bemazed, you can transfer the hektish onto something else, and this becomes chulin, mundane. Hektish means consecrated. Chulin means mundane. Gemara says, is there such a concept that you can take something it's not intrinsically, but it becomes kodesh. It becomes, in essence, it becomes kodesh, and you could make it mundane. Yeah, because once you acquire it, you can't be mocked to something if it's not in your possessions. But if you acquire it, then you could be mocked. It wouldn't be hefker anymore. Came from it. So v'hatanan, but we have a mishnah that says ein mayel achar mayel b'mukdashin ella b'behema klisharis bilvad. 1 second. Look, there's a concept called meila. Meila means that you what does meila literally mean? Trespass. It's a violation. It means that you take something that's consecrated and you use it for personal use, and you have to bring a carbon meila. What's happening now is that, let's say one person, let's say for example, a plate. Someone takes this plate. This is hektish. Someone takes this plate, which is hektish, and he uses it for his own personal use. Okay. If someone else comes and uses that plate, so then we'll see if it's a klisharis. It's complicated, but if it's not a klisharis, if it's not a klisharis, so then the first person that used it already made it mundane, and that's why he has to bring the sacrifice. It already left hektish. It's not hektish, so there's no such thing as another person coming along and using it again and violating meila, because the first person already made it mundane. Now, with the exception of an animal and a klisharis. An animal doesn't become mundane after it's used. Let's say, we'll see in a moment, someone's going to ride it, and then someone else gets off and he rides it. So that doesn't become mundane. Why not? Because it doesn't. The use of it, when you use it, it doesn't take it out from its kodesh status. It leaves it in its kodesh status. So, Ketzad, what's the case? Someone is riding on an animal. His friend comes and he rides on it. His friend comes and he rides on it. So they keep changing of it. It's a pony ride and some carnival. So kulamalu, all of them violated meila, one after another. Why? It's the first person should have taken it once. They use it once, it becomes mundane, and he has to pay for it, right? That's the concept of meila. The answer is that it never leaves its kedusha. It stays kodesh by an animal. How are we saying over here? Back to Rabbi Shia was answering this Mishnah that you took this animal, you made it mundane. Animals don't become mundane. It's a kasha on Rabbi Shia. But before we discuss that, first you have to finish this Mishnah. Same thing would apply if it would be a klisharis, if he was drinking from a golden cup that belonged to the temple, a service vessel. His friend comes and he drinks from it. His friend comes and drinks from it. Same thing applies to there because it's intrinsically holy. So it never leaves its holy status. The Gemara answers, Ahi Rabbi Yehudahi. That Mishnah that you're asking a question from that says that an animal never leaves its status, that's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. And what we're talking about over here, where it does leave its status, is Reb Meir. Okay. Now, just in short, one more time, we had a machlekes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir. These are friends. These are students of Rabbi Akiva regarding using consecrated items for something else. According to Rabbi Meir, the mezid, it goes out of its status, and b'shogeg it doesn't. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, b'shogeg it goes out of its status, and b'mezid it doesn't. B'mezid means intentionally. B'shogeg means unintentionally. Okay, so this is how when we have a contradiction, one of the ways that Gemara uses to answer a contradiction is it just says it's machlekes. It's two different opinions, and that should settle it. The only problem is over here, it's stretching it a little bit too far because Midir Rabbi Yehuda Nishmaler Reb Meir. 1 second. The way that you resolve this problem was by saying that it's machlekes, but it turns out that machlekes has nothing to do with the issue at hand. The issue at hand is, can an animal that has Kiddushin Daf, intrinsically holy, can that become mischalal? Can that become mundane? That has nothing to do with other hektish, shogeg versus and mezid. Has nothing to do with it. You told me a machlekes, you try to tell me as if that resolves everything, but it has nothing to do. Just take a look at Rabbi Yehuda himself. Rabbi Yehuda himself holds that Lav Amar Rabbi Yehuda, doesn't Rabbi Yehuda hold that hektish b'shogeg mischalal, that hektish consecrated items b'shogeg unintentionally used for something else, which is a violation of Me'ilah, becomes mundane. That's the way we explain. However, Kedusha Saguf Lay Maschala. But when something is intrinsically holy, it does not become, it does not become mundane. We have one more Gemara. Pass down. This is good. We're on 55A. So it's the bottom. Nun hey. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, Kedusha Saguf, something that's intrinsically holy, doesn't become mundane. And so we should say that the same thing for Reb Meir. The only difference Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Meir was shogeg versus mezid. But everyone is agreeing that something that's intrinsically holy should not become mundane after it's used. It shouldn't transfer out of its consecration. The Reb Meir nami afagav the hektish b'mezid mischalal, but kedusha zaguf le'mavchala. Even though hektish b'mezid, if you intentionally try to take it out of its consecrated, it actually will go out, but not if it's kedusha zaguf. Follow? Yeah, I find that the Gemaras in Kiddushin are very, very logical. They just the way logic works. Like when you have a question, did you answer the question? You have a question, you have an answer, and then the Gemara will go back and say, I get what you told me, but you didn't answer the question. And it redoes it for you. So just good examples of logic. The Gemara says, "Hasam What we said was that there's a machlekes Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir regarding if you use an item that was holy, does it now become unholy because you used it? You've used it for personal use. You've taken it from its holy. So we said that's a difference between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir if it's done intentionally or not done intentionally. But we said that if it's intrinsically holy, according to both of them, it should not become mundane. That's what we said. Now the Gemara is saying that that's not true. Only according to Rabbi Yehuda, it shouldn't be mundane. But according to Rabbi Meir, it should be. Why? Because according to Rabbi Yehuda, how does it become mundane? Only if it was b'shogeg. So when you do it unintentionally, you don't have the strength to take it out of its consecrated status. But when you do it intentionally, b'mezid, then you can transfer it out of its consecrated status. The Reb Meir has an extra strength that even something that's kedusha saguf could now become chulin, and that would explain our Mishnah before.
So if you make your meiser, kaddish your meiser sheni, you do it b'shogeg. So the evidence.
I mean, if you use it for other things, if you use meiser sheni for other things. With my meiser sheni, we had the opposite. We had Rabbi Yehuda saying that only the Mazid it works. But Meir says it never works. Remember, Meir held that Ma'aser Sheni is Mammon Gavaya, amongst Hashem, reading from Hashem's table. Yeah, by Hekdesh, it's more symmetrical. I have Rabbi Yehuda Mazid versus Shagig and Rabbi Meir Mazid versus Shagig. You know, I have they each fit exactly what the other one doesn't hold. So, okay. Okay, the Gemara's question over here is not so clear what it's asking, but it's saying that according to Reb Meir, you can take something that's intrinsically holy and you can make it unholy by intentionally doing that. It becomes unholy, even though it's Kedushas Haguf, like an animal that should be a sacrifice. You can make it unholy, but maybe that's only by Kachi Kachim. How do you know you can do this by Kachim Kalam? Kachim Kalam is an animal that's secondary holiness, which is not the same status, not as holy. So, for example, an animal that's an oila is Kachi Kachim. It's totally burnt. An animal that's Kachim, that's a shlamim, is Kachim Kalam. It's partially eaten. It doesn't have the same holiness. Now, why there should be this difference, I'm not 100% sure. But the Gemara is asking, maybe this is what he says. Well, we're talking about Rabbi Shia here. So he says to Rabbi Shia, response for Rabbi Shia, one of the students, his name is Rabbi Yaakov, says, Kal v'chaymer, it works the other way. Kachi kachim mischalim, kachim kalim like kolshkin. If something that's so holy becomes mundane, according to Rabbi Meir, so something that's of lesser holiness should also become mundane. For sure should become mundane. Okay. I'm not 100% sure how that works. I don't know if you have any comments over there. Are there any comments on it? Taisus has some sort of explanation here, but okay. Now the Gemara says it's Marnami. You have another statement. Amar Rabbi Chama. It's not supposed to be Rabbi Akiva. I have in the Meser Shas from in the parentheses Rabbi Yeshaya Berlin, Yeshaya Pick. He wrote the brackets in the Meser Shas. Meser Shas is supposed to be Rabbi Yeshua Boaz, but the brackets in it is Ukva. Yeah, it's supposed to be not Rabbi Akiva. It's Rabbi Ukva. Chama bar Ukva. It's interesting because we're familiar with the Rabbi Ukva bar Chama that we've had. Rabbi Ukva bar Chama, and we've also had Rabbi Chama bar Rabbi Chanina. That's very common. Here's Rabbi Chama bar Ukva. Okay, I'm Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Chanina. It's much later. Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina is the Talmud of Rabbi Yochanan. He says, Aymer Hayir Rabbi Meir, that Rabbi Meir would say, Hektish b'mezid mischalel, that b'mezid it becomes mundane. That we know already. Intentionally being used for personal use becomes mundane. If it's unintentional, it doesn't become mundane. And echad kachim echad kachim kalim, and it applies to both if it's of the higher level of holiness or the secondary level of holiness. Kal v'chaymer kachim eschalim kachim kalim like kolshkin, and it's a kal v'chaymer. If it works for kachim, it should work for kachim kalim. Well, turn the page. In Tohi bar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan is surprised. Or Tohi, I think it's associated with the word heavy. Heavy means they deliberated on it. I think Tohi is also what they used in when they wanted to smell a bottle of wine. It says bastia. I think it just means like it also means to deliberate on it. There was the question, like what's going on here? Tell you about Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, I guess, are we telling someone? Is that correct? What do you have in Likutei Rashi? What is it? I don't have a Likutei Rashi. Oh, Ma'ayin Machashva, very good. And where's that quote? Where's what Masechta they quoted? From Erevin. Okay. I don't remember what it was referring to. Okay. The Gemara that the Bastia was in Avodah Zarah. That was the Gemara. Okay. What we just did was we have a guy that found an animal and we're telling him that he should deconsecrate it in order to bring 2 other sacrifices, but that's an Avera. What are you telling him to do an Avera so that this animal will get fixed? Why are you telling him to do an Avera? Elam Rabbi Yechanan comes in and he says, Mamtin la chetumam. No, you wait till it gets a mum. Mum means a blemish. Then once it gets a blemish, it can't be offered as a sacrifice anyway. Then there's all the halachas switch. Then there's no problem. And then you bring 2 animals and you make the condition the way we said. If it was supposed to be a shlamim, then the other animal is a donation, and if it was supposed to be an oila, then my shlamim was a donation. Okay, what's wrong?
Once it has a mum, it needs to be redeemed.
Once it has a mum,
You have to.
Is that the whole point of letting it get a mum? Then once it has a mum, you can use it.
yeah, this animal itself,
The animal itself,
but the
you
benefit
still have to benefit from the oil, whatever you're trying to be proper.
See, what happens is it goes down one level from that kedusha saguf to the level of like a regular hektish. You can't just take a kudshim animal, it gets a mum, and then what happened to the value that was hektish there? You just eat it. What about all the value? The value of it still belongs to the temple. You can't offer it as a sacrifice. So you can actually eat it, but the value of it should end up being a sacrifice.
Usually we let an animal go get a mum because someone had died or bread or something. They didn't need this animal anymore. Since it was hektish, they couldn't use it, so let it go get a mum. Right? Let it go. What's the purpose of letting it get a mum? Once it gets a mum, it's no longer hektish.
Right.
I guess that's my
Right. Well, it's no longer a sacrifice. Then it has to be redeemed.
Fine.
So Amar Mar, the master taught this. Amar Mar is the way we go back and explain a brisa or a mishnah. So far we have it. This is accurate with the way we've been looking at Amar Mar versus Gufa. Yeah. So it's a mishnah. So it says Amar Mar. Amar Mar. Master taught Zecharim. If it's a male animal, then what do we say? We say it's an oila. We say that it's an elevation offering, a burnt offering, totally burnt. Gemara says Dilma Taidahi. There is a carbon taida, a Thanksgiving offering that's also a male. The Gemara says, okay, the Maisinami taida. Okay, you're going to have to bring another animal too. You bring a taida. Says, but you can't just bring a carbon taida Thanksgiving offering because it comes along with 40 loaves of bread. 30 of them are matzah. That's $65 a pound. But you have to bring bread along with it. So it says the Maisinam Elechem, okay, so you bring the bread. Vidilma Ashamo. So, but what about maybe it's a carbon asham, a guilt offering? It says Asham ben Shtei Shanim, V'Shtakach ben Shana. That we have a way out because an asham needs to be 2 years old, and this is the animal you found it in its first year. Okay, the Gemara says Vidilma Asham Mitzayru, Asham Nazaru. Maybe it's Asham Mitzayra or an Asham Nazir, a guilt offering of a leper, or a guilt offering of a Nazir, which those are brought in it that's only a year old. Those are younger. It's keves, it says. It says leishchichi. Those are so uncommon. And a leopard, and he lost his animal. That we don't have to suspect that that's what it was. You know, we were talking about an animal that you found. You don't suspect that's what it was. Dilma Pesachu. Maybe it's a carbon Pesach. Carbon Pesach, male, and it's within its first year. Where it says Pesach bismanai mizer zahiri. No one mizer zahiri bake. No one's losing the carbon Pesach on Erev Pesach. That you don't have. The people are more careful with it. Shalei bismanai, and if it's not in its time, then shlamim. Oh, it's a regular shlamim. It's a regular peace offering, and that was one of the 2 animals that we were bringing. And that turned into 3 now. Turned into a taida as well. Taisus asked that why can't you just make a condition on the shlamim, which is like a taida. So if it's a shlamim, then it should be a shlamim, and if it's a taida, then it should be a taida. It's supposed to be, and maybe on that same animal, I can make a condition. He says he can't do that because you have bread. He says, okay, so make a condition about the bread. Anyway, that's Taisus. The Dilma Becharu Maisinenu. Gemara has a great question. Maybe it's a firstborn animal.
Carbon asham, like carbon chatas.
No, it's different. A chatas is a female offering, and an asham is a male offering, but they're also brought for different sins. Yeah, chatas is the regular sin offering that's brought for any sin that would have had karas. If it was done b'mezid, there would be karas excision. When it's done b'shoigig, you bring a chatas. That's the most common sin offering. Asham is for specific averos. No.
It's just kares.
Yeah, if it's done b'mezid, then it's karas by a chatas, and b'shoigig was a chatas. Asham. Asham is for specific sins. Someone swears falsely, brings an asham, he like denies a few things. Okay, well, maybe it's a bachar. That's got to be common, firstborn animal, and maybe it's meiser. The meiser would have the little thing on it, right? So the Gemara says, "L'may hilchasa." What are you worried about? You're saying that it's getting a mum. L'mechlinu, b'muman. You want to eat it with its mum. Achinami b'muman mesachli. Maybe that's what you're referring to. These animals, a bachar and a meiser, when they get a mum, then they actually belong to the owner. Okay. So what's the problem? Basically, you ask the question as if there's a problem, and the answer is that maybe it is, and you eat it with a mum. There's no problem there. You don't have to bring another bachar to replace it, another animal to replace the bachar. Amar Mar, the master taught. Now we're taking the next case. It says in the kavis, if it was a female animal, ziv chishlamim, then we assume that it was a peace offering. Dilma taidahi, but maybe it's a carbon taida. Taida could be male or female. Maybe it's a Thanksgiving offering. There's the maisi taida. You're bringing also a taida of abin and lechem, but you need the bread. The maisi nami lechem, so you bring along the bread. 40 loaves. You're saying for the Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, right? Yeah, that's what we associate with. It was actually a big feast because they only had one day to eat it. And there were 40 loaves of bread. They had to invite a lot of guests to come eat it.
Thanksgiving from us.
Yeah. The dilma chatasi, maybe it's a carbon chatas, or a female offering is a chata. A chatas is a female animal. It says chatas bas shnasa v'shtakach bas shanim. So it's not perfectly parallel here. The Gemara is saying that a chatas is only in its first year. The animal that you found is 2 years old. By the male, we said the opposite. Male, we said we found a young one. Now, by the female, we're saying that he found an older one. Dilma chatas shaver shnasa. Now we have a problem. Maybe it's a chatas that its birthday passed and it's already in its second year. It says leishchiach. That shouldn't be common. That if someone left the chatas for a whole year and he didn't offer it, ishtakach bashnasamai, he didn't avoid the problem. Let's say you found an animal that was 1 year old. What do you do? So Tanya was taught in a brayso, Chanina ben Chachina Yomer. What does he say in Pirkei Avos? Chanina ben Chachina. Was he the one Haneir Balayla? What is he? Of Nasan, you remember? No, but I'm saying the name we have in Pirkei Avos. Chanina ben Chachina. Can I look in your siddur? No? Yeah, Chanina ben Chachina Yaima in Perek Gimel. Haneir Balayla, Hamalach B'derech B'Yechidi, Mefana Liba Levatala, Reis Mitzchai Ben Nafshi. He's before Reb Nachani ben Akana. He's after Reb Shimon. Okay, so association. So Rabbi Chanina ben Chachina taught. It's good to see them in the halachic. Is bashnas lachatas, that if there's a goat in its first year, in her first year, it's a chatas. Lachatas al kadaitach, you can't bring it as a chatas because you didn't do a sin. Only the owner can bring the sin offering. Another person can't bring sin offering on behalf of somebody. He could give it to him as a gift. Here's an animal if you want to take it, but he can't bring someone else's sin offering. So it says no. What it means is elam rabaya kichatas. You treat it like a chatas. What do you do with the sin offering that you don't know who the owner is? So kain kipa, you take it into a pen, you make some and it dies on its own. You really don't have a solution for a chatas, what to do with it. This is like one of those problems. How do you resolve it? You just have to let it die. Okay, turn around, start in the brisa. Ein leifchen behema b'mayis meiser sheni. Talking about someone outside of Yerushalayim. He has to take his he has meiser sheni, right? Meiser sheni means that he grew crops and he tithed it once. He took a tenth off and he gives it to the Levi. Until the bias sheni. Then he has to tithe it again, another tithe. Take another 10%, and he has to take it to Yerushalayim. Now it's a big schlep to take all of that to Yerushalayim, so he's exchanged it for money. And that money, the value of it, he brings to Yerushalayim. What does he do in Yerushalayim? He buys food in Yerushalayim. But he's not allowed to spend it on animals outside Yerushalayim. You can't buy animals before you get to Yerushalayim with this. What's the reason? First of all, because it's supposed to be cash. It's supposed to be actual coins, besides that kesef. And second of all, the animal could get weakened while you're walking it. And we don't want it. What you would do is, if you do buy an animal with Meiser Sheni, it's supposed to be a carbon shlamim. It's supposed to be a peace offering. But we don't want, when you're going to buy it outside of Yerushalayim, it's going to end up getting weaker. It won't have the same value. So it's going to decrease that value. Bim lakach, let's say he did. So, if it was unintentional, so yachzer damim kaiman. We go to the seller and we tell him that we made a deal over here. I bought an animal and I gave you money, but I have to take it back. The seller's going to say no, and we're going to force him to take it back. We're going to say that I'm sorry, it was a mistake. Why? Because I didn't realize that what I gave you was Meiser Sheni money. And now what's going to happen to this animal is I'm going to have to schlep it to Yerushalayim. Money I had no problem taking to Yerushalayim, but I can't take animal. I have to limit my luggage on the plane. I can't take so many animals to Yerushalayim. So I didn't realize what I was buying. It turned out what I bought comes along with this whole problem. So I didn't realize that. So it's called mekach tois. It's a mistake. Even though what the owner, the seller didn't have that problem. It was my problem because the way I bought it. But nevertheless, we force him to take it back. B'mezid, let's say he did this intentionally. So tala v'toichal b'makim. He has to actually take it to Yerushalayim. He has to take it to Yerushalayim. Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says, this is Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Loi, right? Yassi, you with me? Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Loi. When do we say that b'mezid you take it to Yerushalayim? That's b'miskaven v'lakach chil l'shem shlamim. That's when you intended, when you bought it, that was actually what we said. It was intentional. So what was his intention? That he was going to take it to Yerushalayim. That was his intention. He wasn't supposed to buy it, but this is aval b'miskaven l'haitzim mayis ma'aser sheni l'chulin. But intentional could also mean something else. Intentional could also mean not that I wanted it to be a carbon. I wanted it to be nothing. I took my money from Meiser Sheni and I wanted to go out of Meiser Sheni. I wanted it to be regular mundane money, and I purchased just an animal that's going to be chulin. Then the halacha is bein b'shegig, bein b'mezid, yachzer damim l'kaiman. Then we force the sale to go back. Yeah, I'm not sure what it means. Bein b'shegig. We just said that it was miskaven. Miskaven.
That's mezid.
And that was mezid. What does it mean bein b'shegig? No, there's no meila by Meir. According to Reb Meir, the meila has to be shogig, but according to Reb Meir's meila is limited to eating it, not just transferring funds. Yeah, that's what we came out over there, I think. Okay, so we're saying over here that the sale is done. If it was done, the sale is buckled. If it was done, b'mezid. The Gemara says 1 second.
What says hektish b'mezid mischala?
That means
in comparison to
So Rabbi Yehuda.
No, I could present in this case. What happens with the Meiser Shane?
Oh. What happens to the Meiser Sheni? Meiser Sheni is just 1 second. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. Before we go, 1 second. Va'anan tanan Rabbi Yehuda Aimer b'mezid kaidesh or mezid kiddush. We have a problem over here that Rabbi Yehuda, his opinion was that if someone marries a woman and he uses Meiser Sheni, the Mezid, she's married. And over here we're saying that, and we don't say that it's bottled. We don't say that whatever you did is nothing. And over here you say whatever you did is nothing. That you have to take the transaction has to go back. You have to take the transaction. How did it work when he married the woman b'mezid? And over here, when he's buying the animal, you say that it doesn't work. You have to give the sale back. You should have to do the same thing by the woman. You should say, give the money back. And she's not married. Okay. Yeah, so I'm sorry, Moshe. What are you asking me about Meiser Sheni? Yeah, but we're saying that the whole marriage should be nothing. Mazid, well, you were quoting to me something. By hektish,
Right. So
Mazid Kiddush is according to Reb Meir. Because so you're asking, Reb Meir has a concept of that's not because of Me'ila. It wasn't a violation of it is. It's he doesn't have to bring a Asham Me'ila when he does it for Mazid. Asham Me'ila is only b'shogeg.
Okay.
And nevertheless, according to Reb Meir, you're only going to have a real violation of Me'ilas when you eat it, because he doesn't hold of a regular transfer. And b'mezid, even though it goes out of its mundane status when you did it b'mezid, but it's still not the regular category of Me'ila. Me'ila was only b'shogeg. How does it transfer out? You did something that was wrong, but it wasn't not you. This fellow did something that was wrong, but it wasn't under the halachas of Meila.
Is there an idea of bringing like a carbon ashram to violate the carbon ashram? Just meal on it.
But there is ashram Meilas. I mean, if you have personal benefit from a ashram Meilas, does that require maybe? Okay. So the Gemara, in order to answer this, Amar Rabbi Lazar says, Isha Yedah Shein Ma'is Sheni Mischalin Al Yada Va'ila Va'Ichal to B'Yerushalayim. Why did we say that everything that was done over the whole transaction is null and void? That was because we have a concern that the seller that sold the animal, he sold the animal with the intention that it's going to go into chulin, but he knew what he was doing. But this woman, when she's receiving the coin, the ring or whatever it is, we're saying that it's Rabbi Yehuda said b'mezid kiddush, b'mezid by Meiser Sheni kiddush. Was that how we said it? Meiser Sheni. So, but this woman is actually going to take that coin and go to Yerushalayim, and she's going to spend it in Yerushalayim. She's going to her honeymoon. She's not actually married; she's only betrothed. So she's going to go alone to Yerushalayim, and she's going to spend it there with her friends. So that's Rabbi Lazar's answer. Maskefla Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Yirmiyah has a question. Rabbi Lazar is Rabbi Lazar ben Pedas. Students of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yirmiyah is also over there. Yeah, Rabbi Yirmiyah asks Rabbi Lazar, says, that people know that if you try to buy a non-kosher animal or a slave or land with Meiser Sheni, with money from Meiser Sheni, it does not become mundane. Utanan, and it was also taught, you can't spend Meiser Sheni money on those items. But if you did, that we don't say that the transaction is null and void. We say that you have to take other money to replace it. The Gemara says, so what's our problem? I'm sorry? You have to replace that money. Right.
It's like if you use stolen money for stuff dollars.
So you would have to replace it. So the Gemara now says that Ella, over here we're talking about Hacha Be'isha Chaverta Skinan the Yada. She knows. Now, I guess what the Gemara was asking was that let me see in your what was the Gemara asking here? In this case, the seller is also presumably aware that the money is second tithe, and that he himself will need to take it to Jerusalem, as was presumed in the case of the betrothed woman. So why is the halacha not the same? So if the woman knows to go to Yerushalayim, so over here also the woman would it's not a woman over here. Here it's someone that bought an animal. Just say that you have to take it to Yerushalayim. So we're talking about that actually not everyone knows, but here it's Bisha Chavera Skin and the Yada. Over here she does know that it needs to go to Yerushalayim, that's why she's going to take it. But a regular person that's selling something does not know those halachas, and therefore it has to be replaced. The money needs to be replaced. Amar Mar, we learned in that Mishnah that if he bought a behemoth tmeya, so then he's supposed to exchange that for Meiser Sheni. He's supposed to, that value has to now go into Meiser Sheni, and he eats Meiser Sheni corresponding to the money that he spent on the non-kosher animal. The Gemara asks, why don't we say that the sale is off? Just like we said before, that we should go to the seller and say that the whole sale is null and void. Amar Shmuel says, you can't redo that sale because the seller ran away. He's like one of those guys in the subway when they roll it out on those like things, and then they roll it back up quickly when the police come. So he ran away. Time of the barach. The reason why we say that you can't make the sale null and void is because he ran away. But if he didn't run away, then you would make a knas. You would make a fine on the meicher, on the seller. The fine on the seller means that we say the sale is null and void, and he has to give the money back. It says, why don't we put some sort of fine on the purchaser, that he should have to just replace the money? It says, Lav achbara ganav elachura ganav. This is a famous Gemara. The Gemara says, it's not the mouse. It's not the mouse that steals. It's the hole in that lets the mouse in. That's the problem. So, which that means is it's not the lekeach. It's not the purchaser over here that did something wrong. It's the seller that allowed to sell that sold the item for that money. Which is very interesting, because I would say exactly the opposite. I would say that it's the purchaser. He took Meiser Sheni money and he bought something that he wasn't allowed to.
No, the way it explains it here is it says since they both are integral to the prohibited act, each of them are deserving.
Oh, so 1 second. The Gemara says, but 1 second. I know if you have a hole, but you don't have a mouse, so then there's no problem. So here also, if you have a seller, you don't have a purchaser, you still have no problem. Why are you just blaming him? So it says, Mistabra kol hechadikti sur hasam kantina. It's more logical that we should put the fine on exactly where the prohibited item is. And right now, this money, which was Meiser Sheni, is right now in the hands of the seller. So he has the fine, he has to give it back.
Now that you've done this whole study, how did you answer the question in the Mishnah?
Question on the Mishnah.
If he was Makadosh with the ring that belonged to that dish.
Right. She's taking it to, so over here, that was when the guy was not going. Yeah, that was when the guy was not going to take it to Yerushalayim. When did we say that there was a fine on the seller, a fine on the seller. That's when he was selling it to him, the animal that he wasn't going to take to Yerushalayim. Yeah, 1 second. No, we said even if he is going to take it to Yerushalayim.
Two opinions. One said it was okay. One said it wasn't okay. It was amazing, and if it was shaggy, it was the opposite.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah,
So,
back
so
then.
then we brought in this Gemara that said, well,
Right.
if you find an animal in the wild by accident, you have to redeem
Go
it.
back
It
to
could
the
be
animal.
heckish.
Okay.
And I was thinking, and I didn't actually understand why you actually went through that whole back and forth. I guess I was ultimately thinking that once you prove that it's heckish, you can't basically use it for private use. And I thought that's where we would go with this.
Yeah, except that Reb Meir holds that you're not allowed to, but if you did use it, it becomes mundane and the woman is married.
So at the end of the day, are we siding with one of the two sides?
Oh, no, we didn't say that. We didn't say how we're pass. Oh, did we? The Gemara before, I think, said that we're going to paskin like Reb Meir. Remember that? We said that we had a Stam Mishnah like Reb Meir. We had a Stam Mishnah like Reb Yehuda. Remember that? Where was that? Yeah. Yeah, where was that Gemara where we said Hayil the Sasam Lantana? Yeah. On one page back, we said Halacha Reb Meir b'Meiser and Halacha Reb Yehuda b'Hektish. When it comes to Meiser, it's not a good marriage, and when it comes to Hektish, it would be a good marriage only b'Shaygig, only if it was unintentional. Yeah, that would be the conclusion, I guess. Okay, be continued. Have a good day, everyone. Shikaya.